Good morning. This is Jim Moore, and you are watching Justice for America, the program where we deal with social issues from a biblical perspective. Glad to have you with me here this morning. We're having some sound issues, so I switched my server here. Hopefully that is working okay. Come on, let me know that you're there so we can say hello and know that everything's going correctly. So we have a lot of issues to deal with today, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of stuff that's going on in the news that you probably need to know about, and trust that you want to know about them, or you wouldn't be tuning in. So God bless you. There's Angie, there's Dana and Heather. God bless you guys. There's Robin. Trust that you're hearing me okay. So thank you for your patience. And so starting a little bit late today, so I'm going to jump right into it and start getting into this stuff. So let's look at some of the top things that are going on. I did put some scriptures in here if you want to take the time to read them out of the book of Daniel that really reflect the days that we're living in. The reason I put this specific passage is because one of the things I want to talk about today is the information age. We are in the information age. Hi, there's my beloved. Good, thank you. So this was predicted. So again, we're not talking about, theological things. We're talking right now about just the world. There's Linda. God bless you, Steve. God bless you, all of you guys. So if you ask, it's pretty common knowledge that we're in a season that's known as the information age. We had all these different ages, the Bronze Age, we had the Industrial Age, I'm not going to list them all, but this age, now we're moving into a different kind of an age, but again, don't want to get lost in the weeds. We have been, for some time now, in what I guess social scientists or whatever are calling, hey Kevin, God bless you. And then there's Heather, God bless you. The information age. Now we ignore this to our own peril. The scriptures actually predicted this, and science has confirmed it, not the other way around. We don't look to the Bible to confirm science. It's the other way around. Science is always confirming what God said because God is right. Now, where does it say that? It says that in Daniel chapter 12, and I'm not going to go hardcore Bible here on you, but the scripture, actually, I do think I want to read it. Just a couple verses. It says, at that time, now it talks about the end of the age, okay? So the setting of the scriptures in the end of the age, and this is going to be relevant to the issue that we talk about. At that time, Michael, that's the archangel, will stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. He's talking about Israel. And there will be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation of Israel, even to that time. And at that time, your people will be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. That's the book of life. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life. This is talking about the resurrection, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. That day will come that people will rise. I got to adjust my camera. It's driving me nuts here. People, you walk in the room and you see the picture that's crooked and you can't handle it. That's me. All right. So it says, some will rise to everlasting life, some to shame and contempt. And it says, those who are wise. Now, I know that all of you want to be wise, right? We want to walk in wisdom. Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who turn many to righteousness, like the stars forever. But you, Daniel, I'm almost done. You, Daniel, shut up these words, seal the book until the time of the end. I believe we're in that time. Many will run to and fro. There's two things it says that are pertinent to what I want to talk about and the links I've given you today. Two things that he says at the end of this passage real quick. It says men will, or people, humanity will run to and fro. That speaks of our ability to traverse the earth. Anybody can get on a plane and fly around the planet if they want to. People are going to and fro. People are constant. There was a time for 1,000+ years this was not true. Actually, it's only been true in the last couple hundred years where mass transit has happened. I mean, remember, that was not in existence before just a couple hundred years ago. So this prophecy has already come to pass. People running to and fro, transport, it's talking about transportation. And then the second thing, and it doesn't give a third and a fourth and a fifth, it just gives this one as the end signpost of what this scripture is calling the time of the end. It says knowledge, are you listening now? Okay. Knowledge will increase. We are in the knowledge age, the information age. Nobody could have predicted, as far as, with computers and all that, or I guess I shouldn't say that, somebody might have, but no one really imagined what we're living in right now. The information age was not only, listen now, predicted by God, but permitted by God. The information age is not of the enemy. It is of the Lord. Because we need information in the last days. Now, I've talked about this a lot in the past. What does that have to do, Jim, with today and what's happening today? Well, it has everything to do. You need to realize that these things were not invented by evil, the powers of evil, by the enemy. They were invented by God. They were hidden until he permitted mankind to unveil them and to enter in. Why did he do that? Not to give the enemy an advantage, but to give those who lead, who are wise, right? Like Daniel said, and lead many to righteousness. These are tools that God has given us. God gave them like he gives all things for the purpose of good. Now, the enemy takes them and uses them for evil, right? That doesn't mean that God did not give them in the first place. And if we reject those things or we ignore those things, we do so to our own peril. All right. So having said all that, it is so important that we pay attention to proper information. Hi, Christy. God bless you. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple things today, and I'm really going to challenge you. I hope it challenges you, and I hope you follow through. I believe that God orchestrated this particular program. Most of you know I had an angelic visitation. I don't want to go into that, but it is for our good. It's not just for entertainment, right? Because so much of what we get is just entertainment. This is about what is good for us. All right, let's jump right into it. So you've seen the headlines. Both Tucker Carlson and Don, it looks like lemon, but I think it's supposed to be pronounced lemon. I don't know. So call it lemon or lemon, I don't care. But Tucker Carlson and Don, I'm going to say lemon, are both gone. Now, when I say gone, I mean gone from their lofty positions in the media. So much I can say about this. I'm going to really try to focus my thoughts about this. You are going to hear this for days, maybe weeks. This is a super big deal. Why is it? Well, because both of these men on opposite ends of the spectrum were the main characters of their fields, okay? You have conservative, you've got Tucker Carlson, you've got ultra liberal. Both of these men are the extremes on those sides, okay? Both of them, in essence, I believe will come to find out were fired. Now, it says that Tucker, and again, depending on who you read, you're going to get all kinds of people telling you all kinds of things. I saw one this morning on Yahoo News that was saying Tucker quit. No, he didn't, not really. And then the other ones say, Fox fired him. And, well, kind of, I think what they did is they kind of came to an agreement, which is a more amiable way to do it. And now, Don Lemon, on the other hand, was fired, period, the end. He even said so. So that, yeah. But you're going to hear a lot, but I think what you need to wait for before you make up your mind as to why this happened is wait for Tucker to say so, because I believe Tucker Carlson is a man who desires to tell the truth, regardless of his character flaws, and he's got them. He'll admit that. And I'm not saying character flaws are okay, all right? But I do believe he has this one quality that has become extremely evident, and ultimately, in my opinion, is what got him bounced off of Fox. Now, you got to understand, he's the number one guy. Somebody did a little meme, and they said, that I think it was the Babylon Bee did a thing and said, Foxfire is the only reason why people watch Fox. And it's satire. I mean, that's a satirical comment, but there's some real truth to that. This is akin to Bud Light putting, a man's face on the beer can. I mean, this is going to cause a lot of people to just go bye-bye. Now, let me say this about Tucker. I don't believe he's going to go bye-bye. He may not be on Fox, but believe me, he's not going anywhere. How do you know that, Jim? Well, I could be wrong, but I'm saying this. People who have a commitment to tell the truth are not easily shut up. Okay? He'll do his own program. He'll go join hands with... He's not doing this, and I'm going to be careful how I say this, because he gets paid a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. He'll say that. But I don't believe that his primary goal is to make money. Although he has to make money, and he's used to probably a pretty comfortable lifestyle. But I believe primarily at his heart, he is a person that wants to tell the truth. And listen, for an age that we live in where lies seem to dominate, we need men, again, even if they aren't sanctified, righteous, tongue-talking, Holy Ghost-filled people like me, we simply need, we used to have a lot of statesmen in this country who may have been at different places in their Christianity or their faith or no faith at all, but they were committed to telling the truth. That has diminished greatly. So I'm going to ask you to pray for the man. I'm going to ask you that his next move is one that God leads him into, because we need tellers of truth who have a platform that's beyond someone like me who's just a couple hundred people. So pray for him. Now, I included a video. So again, Tucker has been let go. Pretty much no notice. He was not given an opportunity to say goodbye. He's not given an opportunity to go on the program. I really believe if you watch the videos that I've shown you, you will see in a nutshell why this man is gone. Completely different reason. So now Don Lemon, same thing. He's a guy, he's not a truth teller. Just the opposite. I believe Don Lemon is a man who was given place to the deceptive narrative that's going on out there. He probably doesn't believe he has. I get that. But you've got conservative, you've got liberal, you've got light, you've got dark. And this Don was committed. I don't want to just speak a bunch of bad things about him, but he basically, why were they fired? Well, because the people who are employing them said, this person has now become, are you listening, a hazard to our cause. That's it. Okay? There's nothing more. Now, on Tucker's side, there's the whole lawsuit that happened and all that. That's definitely one of the things that kind of one of the straws that broke the camel's back. But really, I believe it comes down to what's coming out of their mouth on both sides. Now, so again, Tucker wasn't given a chance to say goodbye. They basically came on and said that his last program was one like April 21st. In other words, like he's gone. We're not going to, yeah. Okay, so the first link, and again, as you know, I do this. I go through the links. I'm going to explain them to you real quickly. I believe that most of these are really worth watching. If I were you, I'd watch all of them. I think they're super good. Number one, the first 4 or 5 that I have here are all him. It's kind of my homage to Tucker a little bit, but more than just saying, I think he's in most cases. Now, again, not every time. I'm sure not every person says truth every single time they open their mouth, but I believe for the majority of the part, his willingness to tell the truth is what got him let go, fired, released, whatever you want to call it. So the first one, number one, is just a brief little commercial saying that they're both gone. Okay, these are easy to find. That one's not huge. Number 2 is the one I really want to point you to. I'm calling it Tucker's Last Stand. I believe that Tucker Carlson, when he spoke at, I believe it's Heritage University, graduating class, I think, I'm not really sure, he gives a unscripted message about his life and about what's going on in the world. And he does it with a lot of humor. He's crass a couple times, in my opinion. Anyway, I believe that this message, as all the other things compiled, all the other things he spoke about, very unashamedly, unabashedly talked about LGBT, talked about the sickness. I still can't say that word without it bouncing me. Talked about corruption that day in January, talk about all these things he's talked about, and he's come right out and said, here's, as far as I know, is the truth about these things. And again, he's probably made some mistakes along the way, for sure. But, so it's been a compilation of things, but I believe this message, if you want to see the message that I believe Jim Moore believes pushed them over the edge and said, we're done with this guy. We cannot do this anymore, because even though Fox promotes themselves as a very, conservative, truth-telling organization, I believe they have their limits of that, and they don't want to cross that line. And that's the problem with truth. It'll get you killed. Are you listening? The problem with truth is that it can get you killed. The Bible says the person that pursues righteousness and speaks the truth makes themselves a prey, P-R-E-Y, a prey. You have to count the cost. Jesus is the truth. He was killed. All right. One video to watch. This is the one. Number 2, where he gives his message. Now, I want you to listen for one thing specifically when you watch this video. I want you to listen at the very, very end. I think it's like 26 minutes long or something like that. This is one that I think you should go all the way to the end, and I'm going to tell you why. At the very end, his host invites him to sit down, and they banter back and forth a little bit, and then his host at one point asks him this question, asks Tucker this question. He says, what do you think is the issue that has most changed and affected the culture, or something like that? I'm not quoting exactly. I want you to listen for his answer. It has to do with information. Now, I'm going to give you a spoiler, okay? I'm going to tell you basically the theme of what he said without elaborate. I could never quote everything he says because it takes a couple of minutes to say it. But it's basically about information. This issue, and it stuns me that I meet people that are completely oblivious to what's going on around them. And I'm talking about many of them are believers. And in the name of Jesus, they believe that this is the right way to live. Okay? And again, albeit you can become obsessive, you can become unbalanced. I know plenty of people who are. It's all they think about day and night, and that's not God, okay? But the flip side to that is not God either, where you just don't have any idea what's going on. And yeah, I've said this dozens, maybe hundreds of times, okay? So this is the one. And what he says, he believes that it is the lack of information that has changed in a bad way our culture more than anything else, which is a stunning belief, because there is no lack of information available to people today. The gift of God, knowledge will increase, men will run to and fro, people will be able to go wherever they want, whenever they want, and 2 things, knowledge will increase. That's information. Okay, there was a time we did not have what we have today. But the question is, and basically what he's saying is that people aren't using it, or else they're locked into a certain outlet of information, media outlet or whatever, and they're locked into that. And because they're unwilling to depart from that, they are suffering from the lack of truthful information. Okay? This whole thing about fake news, this is all a real thing. This is the work of the enemy. Okay? Lying is fake news. That's false information. That's what a lie is. It's false information. The truth is true information. Okay, you get that? When is false information? But so many people dwell in the in-between, or else they go, I want the true information from God and from the Scripture. Tucker said a lot of time in that message, I'm not a theologian, I'm not a theologian, I'm not a theologian. Well, I actually am. I'm not in this classical trained sense, but I have lived 40 years studying the Word. I do know a little bit about theology. So I'm coming to you from someone who is in that perspective. So it's good to know the right information that Jesus said. But there's more information in the world than just what God said, okay? All right, so watch that one. Now the next few, number 3, number 4, number 5, I really suggest you watch these, because after watching that first one, and I know that's going to take you, these are short ones, I think. After watching a half hour of Tucker and then watching the next 3, I think they're all like 8 to 15 minutes, something like that. I want to create a picture in your mind as to why this is happening. Listen, this is a big deal. okay, for the two media moguls, CNN and Fox is the most watched, in my understanding, for the two media moguls to fire their top guys, that says something. That means we are about to enter into a shift. All right? Pay attention. That's what's happening. All right. So the first one is Tucker. So this is number 3, 4, and 5. Number 3 is Tucker talks about our kids. And I have to say this carefully. I don't want to offend people. But again, sometimes true information is offensive. Okay? It amazes me how people can watch every kind of filthy R-rated movie on TV, but when you go to tell them something about true information from a godly perspective, they all of a sudden they have sanctified ears and they can't hear it. I do believe he's sanctified ears. Okay, anyway, I'm going to try to say this carefully. So would it surprise you to know that there are literally hundreds of young men and women who have become eunuchs? Okay, now I'm going to use that phrase because it probably won't get caught in the algorithms, and I think you understand what a eunuch is. Let's just limit it to males. People in the Bible, when they became a eunuch, okay, you know what happened to them. I'm not gonna go into that. We literally have made eunuchs out of maybe hundreds, and maybe even more than that, of young men. Have you thought about that? We create words to describe what's going on among our kids and the whole gender thing and all that, and we make very sanitized words to help us, or to make us feel better about it. This is an old tactic of the enemy. He takes words that are meant to shock and words that are meant to challenge and words that are meant to convict, and he dumbs them down to something that doesn't sound quite so bad, and that's how we process it. We have made a number of young people into eunuchs. It is there's no way to turn that around. Okay, well, they'll probably figure out a way. Anyway, I don't want to go into that, but it's mostly irreversible. And our political, are you listening? Lean in for a minute. Our political system is saying this is right. They're not just saying it's permitted. They're provoking and promoting this. They're saying it's good. They're saying this is good and right to make our kids into eunuchs. So he talks about that. Can you see why maybe even the conservative guys go, oh, that's a bridge too far. We're not going to go there. Are you listening to me? I know it's truth. Okay, there's coming a time where the one who calls his name truth will reveal all of this, and nobody will be able to hide behind their lies and deception anymore. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is, again, Tucker talking to Elon Musk about AI. You maybe have seen this recently. He talks about it in the other video, sitting down with Elon. This is a big deal, okay? This is another issue that really, it's like, okay, we need to quit talking about this, so let's fire Tucker. That's number 4. Number 5 is, again, about the sickness, okay? You'd think that this would be done and over with, but it's not. I just saw the other day, another sickness, another plague coming out and saying this is the new variant, this is the new thing. I haven't heard a thing about it since. I think they put these things out there to kind of gauge public opinion. And if there's a big, everybody freaks out about it, then they run with it. Okay. You need to listen to, in number 5, he starts out saying, how corrupt really is the media? And then he goes into this, and you need to listen to it. Then he talks about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Many of you may not be aware of this, but one of the Kennedy clan, yes, they're still around, okay? The Kennedys, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is, I think, in his 70s, and he's had some physical impairment. I forget what it was. I don't know if he had a stroke or whatever. But his speech is very gravelly. I think he has all his faculties, but his voice has been affected. Anyway, he's challenging Joseph Biden for the presidency of the United States as a Democrat. Now, he's been one that they have basically just wrote him off as a freakazoid. That's what they do. If you don't agree with the narrative of whatever party has authority, then you're a traitor, you're treasonous, blah, 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 or a crazy man, just a kook, conspiracy guy. So they've written him off, but he's not. He's just a guy that wants to tell the truth, and he wants to do it in his party. So I think he may give Joseph a run for his money. Now, by the way, President Biden just announced, I think, today, I don't know, I could be wrong about this, that he's going to run. I think we're going to be shocked as to what happens. That's all I'm going to say at this point. I've had some dreams about this, and I just want to hold on to them for a while. Anyway, after watching those 4 or 5 things about Tucker, I think you will walk away. Here's what I'm saying. If you watch them, I think it will be easy for you to see why that this purported bastion of conservatism, Fox News, let their star guy go. Because it's like, yeah, we want truth, but we don't want all of it. Okay, that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. Okay, so if you don't get to anything else, watch those. All right, now I'm going to jump in real quick, and this probably isn't something that a lot of you are super interested in, but you kind of should be, because it will directly affect you in the very near future. I'm saying it will directly affect every single American in the very near future. It already is, but typically these things happen slowly and like bit by bit, and so you don't really notice it's happening. They give you a card, and then they give you a app, and then they do this, and then they start in with some I can't think of it, like Bitcoin, stuff like that. It's a gradual progression unto a predetermined end, which is a cashless society. You've been hearing about it all your life. It was, again, just like the Bible, God spoke to Daniel and said, transportation is going to increase and knowledge is going to increase. And it's gone way beyond probably what anybody imagined. This also is an issue. There's going to be, and remember these 3 things, there's going to be global governance, global government. This is what it's headed towards. Global finances, because you can't have one without the other. And number 3, and perhaps most importantly, a mandated, enforced by law, global religion. These things are coming, and I would dare say most people are not even closely prepared for them. Okay, why? Because they don't take any time to seriously think about the implications of those things and how it might actually physically in reality play out in front of them. What's a global government going to look like that you are forced to take part of on pains of threat, imprisonment, fines, even death? What's that going to look like, and how are you going to handle it? What about finances? When you can't use your card anymore, you have to go digital. You cannot use cash. There will be created alternative systems, but eventually those systems will be deemed illegal. Bartering and all that. Oh, we'll just barter and we'll take care of ourselves and we'll get off the grid. Yes, and at first that will be tolerated, but eventually they'll come after you. Why am I saying this? And what about religion? Where you must adhere to, like China, you must adhere to the state, although it will be a global religion. If you don't, then you're on the outs at first. You're just an outcast. You're a loon. You're a crazy person. You're dangerous. Then it moves to again. That goes little by little too. First, you're just a weirdo, and then you're kind of cast out, and then you become a danger, and then it's like you're so dangerous. We're going to make a law that says you have to have your religion. And I'm saying, how are you mentally and physically and spiritually preparing yourself? And I know some people are like, the rapture's going to happen, that's not going to happen. You know what? I'm not banking on that. I hope it does. Okay. I have massive training in eschatology, but I don't like to go there because I feel like people, they plant themselves in one thing and they won't move from it. So listen, I'm going to live like everything he predicted might happen in my generation, in my lifetime, so that if it does, I will be ready. And I'll know, oh, but I believed it wasn't going to happen. My pastor told me. I sincerely hope that, the catching away, the rapture of the church, the first, whatever you want to call it, happens. Okay. But that's not my issue. My issue is to live for him like You know what? Am I willing to die for him? I mean that. In all seriousness, I mean that. Part of this program, I believe, is to prepare you, these little incremental changes that are working up to something really big. You don't just go, oh, it's no big deal, you know, my family, my sickness, my health, my this, my... Keep you unaware, and the Bible says that. It says that day, Jesus said that. Jesus, the guy you love, right? He said that day will come upon them unawares. In other words, they're not aware of it because they're not paying attention. Have you asked yourself the question? If they come for me, for real, okay? I'm not trying to provoke fear. I'm trying to provoke preparedness. There's a difference, okay? Fear will cause you just to hide and hope for the best. Preparedness will cause your soul to be steeled. I will not deny the Lord. I will not conform. I will not submit to evil in the name of social justice or unity, a false unity or governmental whatever. I'm not going to do it. Okay? It's preparedness. Matt, looking forward to seeing you. Do you get what I'm saying? I know I'm going off my thing here, but I need you to understand, dear Jesus, this is why we do this program. I don't do this program to just give you information so you can go, I'm really well informed. No, I want you to be ready no matter what happens, okay? Preparedness is not just putting food in your cupboard so that you have something. No, it's body, yes, but it's also spirit, okay? Relationship with the Lord, and it's mental. Okay, I am mentally prepared. Just like when I get an announcement that a tornado was coming through my area where I live in Texas, I don't just go, oh, the Lord is going to protect me. Well, I think he will, actually. I really do believe that. But I don't rest on my blessed assurance and just be negligent in the name of my good God. I mean, that's a dangerous position to take. All right, I'm preaching now. So, all that to say, what's happening financially? I just want to give you a quick overview and then let you look at the video. So, the video that I put on here, or the few that I put on here, the first one, basically the first one explains what a petrodollar is, but I don't want to, let me come back to that in a minute. So under this heading of what's happening in the financial world, the video number 2, I should have put this as number 1. It's called The King, as in the dollar. The king is dead. Okay? Somebody say it with me. The king is dead. The dollar. We're not talking about King Jesus. We're talking about the dollar as being the king of currency in the world. I hope you know that, right? It's called the standard. There's a lot of phrases they use. This is a group called Flyover Conservatives. Don't agree with everything they say. I don't even agree with myself all the time. Okay? You got to understand that. Okay? You got to look for truth, not always freak out about the person saying it, because sometimes they're going to get it right. Sometimes, you know, one guy might get almost everything right. One guy might only get one thing, you know, yeah. Anyway, Flyover Conservatives, Dr. Kirk Elliott, he is talking about what's happening with the dollar right now. Let me just give you a quick summary. Now, I gave 2 definitions because as you listen to this video, if you're like me, if somebody says a phrase or a word I don't understand, it kind of just jostles my brain. Maybe it doesn't you. I have to stop the video, go to the dictionary, find out what that word means, and now I can listen to you and understand. Sometimes these guys that are kind of highly educated in certain things, they're throwing out phrases. Like, you ever talk to a computer guy? They're talking about terabytes and giga of this and that, and you have no idea what they're talking about, and so you lose most of what they're saying. But they kind of assume you already know what they're saying, okay? Hey, guys, realize your field of expertise, most people have no idea what you're talking about, okay? So anyway, I know they don't always have time to explain these things, but 2 words that they use. Number 1 is brick, and number 2 is petrodollar. So I just put down a quick definition. You will actually have to stop the video or when I'm done and look at the definition if you want to know what those things mean if you don't already know. So BRICS nation and petrodollar. The petrodollar are U.S. dollars, historically U.S. dollars, that's about to change, that are paid to oil exporting countries. Okay, So it's American dollars, it's US dollars, it's a dollar bill, American dollar bill, but they are a primary source of revenue for OPEC members and oil. Why does this matter? Well, you'll see as you go along. So I don't want to, but petrodollars are simply American dollars that specifically are used for the import and export of oil. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, the BRICS nations, okay, you're going to hear a lot about the BRICS, like you're throwing a brick, okay, but not spelled exactly the same. So I've also given the definition for this. I put it right at the top. What is BRICS? What is that acronym? It's an acronym, right? All capital letters. What does that acronym stand for? Well, it stands for the different nations that the letters in the alphabet represent. So B-R-I-C, there's no K, B-R-I-C-S. Okay, 5. B-R-I-C-S. This is important to know. So listen. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Why does that matter? What are these 5 nations doing? Okay. You've heard a lot in the news about China and Russia. Do you understand that 2 of the largest powers, well, actually 3, okay, Russia, India, and China, RIC, those guys are major. I believe India has now surpassed China in population. We're talking about, I know there's at least 1 billion souls in China. You have to understand, this is not some tiny, teeny little side issue. This is we're talking about global economy and how it's going to affect you. These 5 nations, I know I'm going on here. I'm trying to make this short and simple. These 5 nations are saying we're not going to use the dollar. We're not going to allow, everywhere in the world, the dollar is the primary. People translate their money into US dollars. Okay? That is going away. Now, will the Lord allow that to happen? I actually think he will. I actually think that the dollar will become, it's not necessarily going to disappear, but it's not going to be the chief. That's a big deal, because basically what this means for these nations, and there's probably more nations that are going to join them, is that we don't depend on you anymore. That's going to financially affect this country in ways you can't even imagine. Okay? So, watch the videos, get a little information in your head about it, ask Jesus how you should respond to this. You have to do what your master tells you to do. But I would caution you to believe that the Lord's just going to say, Yeah, and again, maybe he will for you. I don't know. All I know is what I hear. So, first video, what is a petrodollar? Number 2, the big one, is called The King is Dead. It's a pretty short one, very valuable information. The number 3 talks a little bit more in depth about what BRICS currency is. These are all pretty easy. So, okay, so that's done. Moving on. You still with me? Hey, Mikey, God bless you. Kelly, God bless you. If I miss your name, I apologize. All right, so the third heading I have is, again, I want to really provoke you. Please don't just listen to this program and then just click it off and go on to the next thing. Take time after we're done, okay? This is more important to me even than the sharing part, because I'm always asking you to share. Open up. And again, I'm not insulting your intelligence. It amazes me how many times I find out people go, I had no idea you could even do this. So when you go to the video, at the top of the video, there's the description box where it says words of encouragement, April, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I give the title. There's a little word that says M-O-R-E. It's not my name, M-O-R-E. If you hit the more, it'll open up the description box, and all of these links are there, and these definitions, and it's a tremendous amount of stuff. This is where you can find the link. This is where you can watch these things. Please take the time. I know you probably can't watch them all. I understand that. I try to limit them, but this is how you do it. For those of you who already know all this, thank you for your patience. All right. The next heading, how can they get away with this? Video number 1, Dan Bongino. Now, most of these guys claim to have a faith in God. It's not my place to say whether they do or don't. I don't even really care. Okay, I mean, I care because I want everyone saved. You understand what I'm saying? Understand where I'm coming from? But that's not the purpose of the link, is for you and I to sit and judge whether they're saved or not. Or, well, that person claims to be a Christian, but he has a potty mouth. That's not what I care about. I care about their information. Is it accurate? Is it true? I want the truth. I want to know the truth so I can propagate the truth. I want to multiply the truth in the earth as much as I personally can. You say, yeah, but this guy, he does this, and he talks about, you know what, I don't care. Now, I'm not talking about a Don Lemon, okay, that's on, but I'm talking about guys that are sincerely, I believe from their heart, trying to get truth out. I believe he's one of them. So Dan goes into depth about the whole Hunter Biden laptop thing. Now, I know some of you just kind of click out when you hear that. Like, again, that's not an issue I really care about. Let me tell you why you should care about it, okay? It's not about Hunter Biden. It is about political corruption. Are you listening? Let me say that again. Who cares about the life? I mean, this laptop, in case you're just now understanding what's been going on for the last, I don't know, year, 2 years, whatever. Actually, it's longer than that, isn't it? Anyway, Hunter Biden, the son of President Biden, led for a long time a very corrupt life. And he recorded it for the world to find out about. Maybe, I'm pretty sure he didn't intend on them finding out, but once we found out, then he wrote a book about it and confessed everything. His laptop is full of documents. Well, let's start here. They're full of pornographic pictures of him involved with prostitutes, taking massive quantities of drugs, buying them, and so on. Way illegal activity on a personal level, okay? And in addition to that, cooperating with communists, the Chinese Communist Party, the government of China, making massive amounts of money in illegal ways. Okay, now I'm not going to tell you all the nuances of that because I don't have time, but that's the issue. Now, so what if he did that? Well, the real issue here is twofold. Number one, the crimes that he committed. Did his then president or father running for president against Donald Trump know about these things? Was he maybe even involved with those things? I believe the answer at some level is yes, but let's go past that. So what illegal activity happened, that's one thing, because just because you're a president's son, or the president for that matter, as we're seeing people say this about Donald Trump, you don't get to be above the law. You just don't get to. So a lot is coming out. Now, the big issue that Dan goes into is that this stuff has been known. We're talking about our nation's policing force, the FBI, the CIA. These guys all knew about this. And they covered it up because it came out right before the election. So this is issue number 2. What actually happened? And the second issue is the cover-up. It's not this now, and I want to emphasize this really plainly. This is no longer a debate. Okay, sometimes this stuff comes out and it gets out and people are back and forth, oh, it did happen, it didn't happen, back and forth. Let me just tell you this. Nobody is denying it happened now. And that's the stunning part about it. How can these officials continue to get away with this kind of stuff? What is happening in our country where a guy who really has not committed federal crimes can be indicted and tried and perhaps put in prison, a former president, but a standing one, even before he was, all of these issues circulating around. This thing was put out right before the election for the purpose of affecting the election. Now, you can go election deny. I don't deny elections. I deny whether they're legal or not. Okay. Do you know that every election that's probably ever been in the history of humanity has had somebody trying to corrupt it? So the idea that we should bring up the subject of an election being messed up and somehow that's weird, and no, that's predictable. I doubt there's ever been a pure, election where somebody hasn't tried to mess it up. So don't insult people's intelligence by saying that See, this is what we do. We make a label on somebody. You're a this denier. You're a this, you know, and it's negative, right? And all of a sudden, that's who you are. It's foolishness, okay? So, but when you demonize your opponent, you win, right? Okay. So what actually happened, why, now, what you're going to see in this, excuse me, is going to stun you. This is actually, in my opinion, one of the most stunning things that I have seen in a long time. So Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, some of you probably don't even know who he is. Basically, this is the accusation, and it seems like it's easily proven. Again, all this stuff is there. It's all out there. It's just not, yeah, they're just not doing anything. Okay, how can that happen? How can justice fall by the wayside in order so someone can continue their power and authority? It is grossly immoral. All right. So some of you might remember the letter that came out. President Biden, actually before he was president, in his one of his debates or whatever, right before he became president, got up and this is in a video. He says 51 CIA agents, current and former agents, including 4 heads of CIA, all have signed a document saying that the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. That's the new whipping boy, right? Anything that we don't like or anything that, yeah, we don't want people to know about, we'll just blame it on the Russians, okay? Secretary of State, it looks like the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, he's being actually called for his resignation now, was the guy who provoked this letter. Don't know that much about that. Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it seems to be very obvious. The 51, now this is what's happened recently. A head official, I don't know his name, but one of the guys, listen close, literally admitted this whole thing was a lie. Literally admitted that every one of those 51 CIA officials knew it was a lie and signed the paper saying it was Russian disinformation. Say, Jim, I haven't heard anything about this. Well, it's out there. It's all out there. So, again, the biggest issue for me is not Hunter Biden. It's not the fact that he was doing a lot of coke and whatever and sleeping with, you know, ladies of the night. It's about laws that were broken, and mostly it's about a cover-up in order to change an election so that we can have, people will do almost anything and sometimes anything to stay in power. That's the issue. Okay, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a country that operates like that. And trust me, God doesn't want that to be that way either. All right. So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, one of these, all 51 of these guys are named. So again, I want to emphasize this is not being hidden any longer. It has actually been confessed that this is true. That not only did the FBI have this laptop that gave all of this information, but they hid it on purpose, and 51 CIA agents lied. They just lied, out and out lied, and they have confessed, or at least the guy at the top confessed that this has happened. All right, so almost done here. There's a thing here about the current Chinese developments. I don't think I'm going to comment on those too much here. Same ongoing situation. Taiwan is preparing to defend themselves against the Goliath of the Chinese Communist Party. China is determined for various reasons to take that tiny island nation that is an ally of the United States. Again, there's always the political issues that surround it, but I like to tell people, I like to remind you, human beings, sons and daughters, okay, sons and daughters, 20-year-old kids will bleed and be blown up and die because of these things. Okay, so it's not just a political thing. You know, let's talk about the politics of it. No, let's remember these are people. These are people whose lives. Again, we have this idea sometimes that these things don't affect us. And typically they don't affect us until they touch us directly. Okay, so we ought to be praying for Taiwan. We ought to be praying for Russia. We ought to be praying for, you know, someone to be able to address this in a way that stops these crazy conflicts. So there are 3 of them there. And this is what I want to end on. The last 2 is you're going to hear a phrase a lot in the future. Okay? How do I say this? The issue of climate, I'm saying just climate, is a real issue. It's not a non-issue. It's not a fake issue. If someone burns down a city, you've got climate problems. If somebody dumps their sewer into the Willamette River, where I'm at right now, you have a climate. Climate problems are themselves real, okay? But when that issue goes crazy is when people seize it for political gain. The Democratic side of the equation has done just that. And then what that does is that causes the other side to pull back, and they're not even willing to talk about it in a reasonable fashion anymore, because it's become, they almost have to seize the opposite narrative, if you understand what I'm saying. And then the further one side pushes, the harder the other side feels like they have to push back, and we are not able to come to a reasonable assessment of the problem and a conclusion of it, okay? So this is the nature of that. So you're going to hear this phrase, environmental justice. Why am I saying this? Because it is accelerating. Those who are in power now are taking this position, the world is about to end, okay? You know, it's not, but it's going to, everything's going to, you know, every single weather crisis now, every single weather crisis now, are you listening to me, is blamed on climate crisis or so-called climate crisis, okay? I'm not a climate denier. I do believe in the climate. I'm living in the climate right now, okay? What I deny is the crazy, freaked out narrative that some have embraced. I watched a news thing the other day. You know, we've been having poverty and floods and things, you know, famines in Africa for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. But now, every one of those things, I rarely watch CBS, but I watch CBS, and one of their main guys, I forget his name, he's going and he's talking about, and he's interviewing and seeing these guys that are suffering and starving to death somewhere in Africa. And it's always been that way. I'm not saying it's good or right, but it's just there. And he uses the word climate crisis, I don't know how many times. Everything is being blamed on that. Why? Because it's seized as a political position, so we will get voted or stay or get voted into authority. People will do anything for authority. So what does the word environmental or the phrase environmental justice mean? The long and the short, you're going to hear it over and over, the president's speech over and over and over again. Every federal office, he's saying literally every single governmental entity will and must embrace not just environmental issues, but environmental justice. When you see the word justice, remember the law. This is about bringing now into the law the crazy. Long and the short, you have to do what we say. You have to limit this. You have to pay for too much carbon emissions, blah, 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 all of this stuff. We're going to force you to do it by making a law, and if you don't do it, you'll either be fined or maybe eventually put in jail. And the overarching thing is you will be seen as an enemy of the planet. Okay? That's it. I got to stop. I put in an extra credit one at the very end. Are there any good guys left? If you want some good news after watching all of the other stuff, watch that one. It's about somebody who's in D.C. who really is a good guy. So anyway, love you all. Thank you for tuning in today. I must go. Thanks for your comments. Apologize, I don't get to stop and read them, but I'm going to do that right now when I hang up. So go back, watch the links, and you know, it wouldn't hurt you to come back and comment to me once in a while about watching them so that I know you actually did, that I'm not wasting my time and my breath. I know I'm not. God bless you. I love you all. Give yourself permission to have a great day.